Hello folks, I hope you're having a great day today. Today I'm going to be taking a look at another H.G. Wells short story from this big giant collection of every short story he ever wrote. I want to take a look at a story that he wrote called The Sea Raiders. It takes place in the late 1890s, so we're going to take a look at the Sea Raiders, and I think it's pretty interesting. I also enjoy the ending of the Sea Raiders a lot too. It has some typical Wells sort of style of writing, and I'll give you an example of that. Actually here, let me give you an example of, before I even tell you what the story is or give you a synopsis later, let me give you a quote from it. This is a very Wellsian style of writing. He approached his mark with all the assurance which the absolute security of this country against all forms of animal life gives its inhabitants. This idea of the man, people from England are much more proud, are much more are not really taking doing what they should do to make themselves safe and secure. How idiotic we were. This idea that you'll see from things like War of the Worlds is also something that's happening here too with our main character, who has come across something unusual on the shore near Devonshire. And he is approaching these things that are happening and with all this sort of false sense of security that all the people in Britain would have at this time. So again, you kind of get that Wellsian sense of, man, this story's being written later, but man, we really thought we thought we had it made. We were such idiots. So that's kind of the story of what's happening. So what's happening in this story? And Wells sets this up very nicely. There is a new species of giant squid that's found. And evidence of it had been found prior with these different expeditions. There was the Prince of Monaco who found some of them. And it had been documented. And there had been one of the pieces of evidence they had found has identified a new species of giant squid. But they had not up until now actually seen a living example of it that was still alive. And it wasn't just a piece of it that had been found on the shore or washed up in a fisherman's net or something like that, right? So they are doing some investigations, and anyway, they come across, and if they've come up with a scientific name for this species, but they just still haven't found any living species for it yet. Until this guy comes across this shore, and he sees some of them right there off the shore. They're right there on the beach of Devonshire that he was following along. They are snacking on some people that they found during the night. So they're eating on some carcasses. He tries to scare them away. There's nothing happening. So they end up fleeing. He ends up fleeing from them, and he'll end up getting a crew of people to go into a ship. They are going to go through on the other side of the beach and come in where the squid are and grab the body of the people, the one body that's still left that hasn't been fully consumed yet, so they can take it back and then find out more about these squid. The thing's going to go poorly for the ship and the people on it and some other ships that are nearby. It's going to create a big giant incident there on Devonshire. Lots of other things are going to happen as a part of this story, and then you're going to end this story with some conclusions and some things that are happening. Now I'm going to leave you to that. I'm just going to go ahead and set the synopsis aside. But suffice it to say, it's very typical Wellsian style of writing. Again, this sort of, we were idiots, we thought we had it good, we didn't. But you can kind of follow along with what's happening in this short story. It's actually broken out into three parts. The first part is the initial sort of scientific analysis and the initial run into the squid. The second part is the chase of the squid with the boats and the fleet. And then the second and the final one is what's happening now, kind of bring you up to speed for current state of affairs, and that's part 3. And those are 3 parts of a short story that's 10 pages long in my collection. So that means that each of those parts is like 2 or 3 pages long. But you get the idea. It's still divided into 3 parts, which will help you with your ease of reading if you wanted to spend 10 minutes reading it. I just read the short story for the first time prior to coming in here and recording it. It was very quick. I read it in probably 20 minutes. As you know, I've been reading a number of these short stories from this work. This is one of the last ones that I've read. It's called The Sea Raiders. It's one of the last ones alphabetically. I've just been reading them in order. I think I've got maybe 5 or 6 left. But I did want to bring it to your attention. It is fun. It is very Wellsian. It's not something I had encountered before. And as I come across some interesting short stories in here, I've been giving them to you, like The Moth. I'm not doing every single one. Some of these short stories really aren't properly in the 3 genres that I care about: fantasy, science fiction, and horror. Nor are they. Sometimes they're just kind of, here's like the Magic Shop, for example. It's just a story where this guy and his family come across a shop that's, surprise surprise, actually magical, even though he doesn't think it is, and it thinks that all the magic tricks that you can buy there are just obviously fake, but in reality, super surprise. That is a story that's been done many times before, many times since. It's not something that Wells does particularly. He doesn't have like a unique take on that. So I'm not bringing you, for example, the Magic Store. If you want to, there it is. You can check it out. And that's one example. There are other ones out there too. So I'm only going the ones that I think have this really strong sense of something happening and that fall within my 3 things. There's one story I actually read of his that I thought was pretty good. It's a view of, I can't remember the name of it, a view of Armageddon, a view of Apocalypse. Look it up. It is a vision of judgment. Where Wells basically is guessing as to what would actually happen if the folks actually happen and the Armageddon actually came and the rapture happens with the people that were actually happening. So it's what his kind of scientific review of what that rapture would actually look like. If you're interested in tracking it down, go ahead. It's not a part of this channel, so I'm not going to give you a review on it. It's not something that fits within this sort of framework. A religious think piece isn't really something that's within the framework of science fiction, fantasy, or horror. These are all the short stories that H.G. Wells published, and they weren't always something that would be science fiction. And so anyway, but anyway, here you have this brand new species of giant squid that's found, how the people are reacting to it, and what they're going to do next in order to help deal with the giant squid. And that's been attacking in this new species, which is science fiction, so although light, but it is certainly science fiction. He approaches it from a science fiction angle. They have come up with, it's very sciencey. It's got all the sorts. They've come up with they've looked at the genetics. They have an understanding of the species. They've done research on it. It has a science fiction angle. Now it's a light science fiction angle. It's not heavy. It's not like War of the Worlds or Time Machine, or even like The Star, but or The Stolen Basilisk, which are also short stories. But it's just a 10-page short story. It's fine for what it is. But anyway, there you are. I'll leave you to it. Let me know what you think about in the comments below. Did you agree or disagree with my video or anything in this? I'm happy to talk with you about that more, engage you with you about that in more details and such. If you like this video, please feel encouraged to hit that subscribe button, because there's going to be so many more of these sorts of forgotten classics, stories that people may have forgotten about or never knew about, or never had a chance to read in the 3 genres I mentioned before for you. And then finally, hey, if you watch this video all the way to the end, I just want to thank you for taking some time out of your day to do so, because we all have such busy days, busy lives, so many things that are happening, and so many things that taking us about from one direction to the next. So the fact that you spent this time with me, that's something very humbling, and I appreciate that.